Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Hometown Heroes. I'm Mike Kenichi. I'm very excited tonight because tonight's guest, there's many words to describe her: courage, stamina, bravery, grit, determination, heart. And those words all relate to one word, which I really think defines her, and that's called fortitude. And it is my honor to have on. She's done it all. She's got a 4.0 GPA. She's an outstanding teacher, mentor, but more importantly than that, she is also what Michael Jordan is to basketball, what Serena Williams is to tennis. She is to her sport in the world of martial arts. She's won several tournaments. She's won the grands. We're going to get to know this person tonight, and she's going to tell us all about her story. It is my honor to introduce to you Miss Mary Amato. Mary, thank you for coming on tonight. It's a real honor.
Hi, Mike. Thank you so much. I'm really, really excited.
Me, myself included. So, Mary, I think the first thing I want to ask you, it's really ironic how your career started in martial arts. I believe your parents were both taking martial arts at the time, and your mother was pregnant with you, and she was still, doing martial arts while she was pregnant with you. And once she had you, she figured she had to give it up, and it was your teacher, Sensei Sharkey, who said,
That's right.
"Listen, I'll take care of her, keep doing what you're doing." So you really were born into martial arts, weren't you?
I was really born into martial arts, and I owe my journey to my parents and to Sensei Sharkey, Sensei John Sharkey. Um, I mean, my parents just started as a hobby. They had no intention or no idea of the world of tournaments or curriculum or the legacy that they would build, and that my family would be able to join with the Sharky's Karate family. They just wanted to do it for fun. They just got married and they wanted to do something active. And then when I was born, after my mom gave birth to me when I was born, Sensei John Sharkey was like, "You're not quitting, lady. I'm going to take this baby." And he just cared for me while they took classes. And then naturally, I just grew up at the karate school, at Sharky's Karate School in Naperville, Illinois. And I grew my own love for it.
Right. And let me ask you, Mary, because at 4 years old, I believe that's when you first joined. I mean, at 4 years old, you're still kind of like, you're not really even, you haven't started kindergarten yet. You're
Mm-hmm.
still kind of like in the baby stages. So, I mean, were you more excited just to be able to go to the classes with your parents? Or like, did you really even, you couldn't really appreciate what this would bring to you quite yet, correct?
Well, what's really cool about Sharky's Karate is it's the headquarters for everything. So not only did they have the traditional classes that my parents just did as the hobby, they have extreme martial arts classes, and they're also the host school for all the AKA martial arts camps. So while I was little, under the age of 4, I saw all these teenagers, specifically Sammy Setath and Dana Hure. I saw them and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I want to be just like them." And they were I had no idea the competitors that they were when I was just a 3-year-old little girl. I just thought they were really cool and I wanted to be just like them. So my parents were in the adult class, but when I was finally old enough, I begged Sensei Sharky to take karate classes when I was 3, but he made me wait. He made me earn it until I turned 4, and then I got to do the Little Sharks program, which is actually it's still a class, a curriculum that's going on today, and that is almost over 20 years later, and it started before my parents even joined the karate school. Little Sharks is a phenomenal program that Sharky's has, and there are many students that start at 3-4 years old at Sharky's Karate, like myself and my younger sister, that are training or have black belts in the school now.
Right. And Mary, correct me if I'm wrong. And again, I don't pretend like to be an expert, but one thing I do know, or at least I think I do,
Mhm.
is each belt that you go for. So, say you're a yellow belt and you're going for an orange belt, you
Yes.
have to kind of you have to test and you have to go over everything you learned as a yellow belt, then do the orange. So,
Yep.
going people don't realize the road to being a black belt, because I mean, you've got to go through so many belts and you've got to basically do everything that you learned from the time you
Yes.
started as a white belt.
It's cumulative and it builds on itself. And not only does the knowledge you learn at white belt go into the orange belt, and both of those go into the yellow belt, and all of those go into the blue belt. Not only that, but the rigor and the expectations of each belt gets harder as well. So one, you need to know all the knowledge, that cumulative knowledge, but some of it might be more, I expect more endurance of you, you're an advanced belt, I expect more respect for you when you come to the test, your uniform better look good. When you were just a white belt, it's okay if it was kind of wrinkly, but now that you're trying to get your purple belt, you better look like you have some respect and you're ready to do this. And the other thing, all martial arts, they have different curriculums and different styles and even just different belt ranks. But at Sharky's, where we studied Shorei-ryu karate, um, part of Sensei Sharky's curriculum is the black belt. The adult black belt is the overarching goal. There's a select few in the entire world that are for that Sharky's black belt legacy. At the Sharky's Karate School, you can't even get that until you're deemed an adult. So when I was 13, I was able to test for my junior black belt. So there's junior ranks. However, I had to wait till I was almost 18 to test for my adult black belt. So even though I had my junior black belt, I had a black belt in karate, but there was a whole other world of knowledge and physical strength I had to learn and develop and absorb before I could test again for my adult belt.
Right. And Mary, one of the things too, taking taking martial arts and stuff, no matter what kind it is, there's always going to be some physicality involved. So, I mean, that's the one thing I think that is tough for young kids sometimes, because they have to kind of get used to contact and understand
Mhm.
that that's going to happen. I mean, was there ever a time when you started doing it, like say maybe 9 months to a year into it, where you were like, this is a struggle? I mean, did you ever go through that, or did you just enjoy it from the
Oh,
start?
for sure. There were so many times where I was like, "No, I'm not doing this. I quit. I don't want to come to class. I'm bored." And it was either my mom, or it was Sensei Sharky, or it was one of my teammates, or one of my idols that was like, "Okay, you can have an off day. You might be like, okay, I'm dreading it, but you gotta learn how to be determined. You set a goal and you work for it." A lot of the times, especially as young kids, they don't understand the whole big picture. It's just okay, they're having a bad day, they want to quit that day, but the next day it's amazing. The other thing is, karate wasn't the only thing I did as a little kid. I was lucky enough that I was able to try any sport or any activity that I was interested in. Karate was the one that I stuck with and that spoke to me and that I had a good relationship with. But I think that was another blessing that I had growing up. I didn't put all my eggs in one basket as a little kid because I would have gotten burnt out. And that's something that I'm grateful for in the end. But I started it as a young age and I got to continue with it and I got to do little fun things along the way. And of course there was times I wanted to quit at all ages. Even when I got older and I was really intense into tournaments, it gets draining, it gets tiring, but there's some dedication and some discipline that you learn through the martial arts that keeps you in check, that keeps you going.
And think about this, Mary. You brought up doing different things. Now, someone who plays softball, they can play it year round if they want. They could play fall ball, they could play in the spring, the summer, but they could also take a break from it and they could play basketball, they could play volleyball. The one thing about karate is it's year round as
Yes,
far
sir.
as I. So, I mean, really, it's almost like I look at karate, I look at dance, and I look at running, that anybody that's doing that, they are doing it year round. And like the conditioning that comes with it and keeping yourself fit and being able to have the endurance, because it is a grind every day. Even as much as you enjoy it, there's a lot of sacrifice and hard work involved in it.
Absolutely. And it is a grind. And one thing that keeps everybody going is there's always something to work for. What I was part of the NASCA martial arts circuit, the North American Sport Karate Association, and I also competed in more local regional circuits like the American Karate Association Chicagoland tournaments. But there's always a tournament coming up, or there's always a belt test coming up, or there's always a side swipe performance around the world coming up that you have to train for and you have to be ready. And part of that discipline is, yeah, there's no off season. You got to get going the whole time. But you need to know when to celebrate your wins. And I just had an awesome tournament. I just had a really hard, physically draining tournament on my body. Okay, I can rest when I'm on the airplane. And then the next day I go and train again. And it definitely teaches some discipline, and it is not like the normal sports like you're saying. But I feel like people that are in other sports like that, at least from my perspective now, I am, as much as I am a martial artist, I was never good at any of the school sports at all. I always felt like they were in multiple things. My little sister, I'm going to brag on her for a little bit. She does martial arts, but her main sport, her shining sport, is basketball. And what has been really cool to see is how she uses martial arts as a cross training for basketball. And that's something I've always admired from other athletes, that Sensei Sharky has instilled in Sharky's athletes, because not only do we know traditional karate, but we also know extreme martial arts. And it, if you're truly the best at those, you know that they go hand in hand, although it might seem different to the eye. The better training you are in one thing, it's going to show in the other style as well.
Right. So, Mary, let me ask you this. We'll get to the moment when you received your black belt, but I would think as a young kid, just getting that first belt was
Oh, yeah.
special to you. So, just talk about that experience. I mean, I would say you're probably like 5 years old at the time, but talk about getting that first belt when you got past white belt.
I mean, it's even as just a 5-year-old, you can see, wow, I put a lot of time into this and I earned this. That we were never handed a belt. We were never, one, allowed to take a test if we weren't ready to take it, but we weren't going to pass the test unless we knew what we were doing. It's so at 5 years old, that's a really big lesson to instill in a little kid, that I'm so grateful that martial arts has taught me from a young age. And not only is it you're proud of yourself, but you're in front of your whole karate class of kids that you've grown to be friends with, and they're all clapping for you. They're all supportive of you, and it's a really special moment that makes you want to keep going.
Yeah, and I think, Mary, that the big thing is when you're a young kid and you see the recognition you're getting and you see the crowd cheering for you and doing things like that, and your parents are proud of you, because at a young age, the thing the kid loves to do more than anything else is brag to their parents, or see the proudness their parents have in them for doing stuff like that. So I'm sure like there was always something that kept you motivated to keep doing it, and it was instances like that are a big reason why.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think another thing, knowing that my parents did martial arts, or that sometimes they were the ones testing me, made it more impactful for me, because they knew what I had to go through, and they knew what I had to train for. And that's what's just so special about Sharky's Karate School. All of us really grow into being a family together. So you can be so proud of yourself and you get to brag on it to your friends, but you're also proud of them at the same time.
Right. Mary, we'll get back to martial arts in a second, but one of the other things that people don't realize about you, and this is what I mean why you've impacted your town and community so much, because when you were in high school, you were the president for 2 years of what was called the Urban Arts Club, and you guys would perform dances at your school pep rallies and stuff. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mary, you believe that dance and karate kind of go hand in hand with each other,
Oh, for
correct?
sure. For
Yeah.
sure. I totally believe that. And I will be the first to say that I'm not the best dancer. I mean, I was definitely better when I was younger and practicing more, but I dancing has never been my main sport. But some people that I've looked up to, like Micah Carnes and Justin Chang, and like I've already said, Dana Hewitt, they were always dancing at the karate school. So I wanted to dance with them and learn what they were doing. And as I've gotten older, I was able to do it, and I realized how similar martial arts choreographies and dance choreographies, and the way you move your body in both, really complement each other. And what was so welcoming about the Urban Arts Club is people from all sorts of backgrounds, cultures, dance styles, no dance styles, all came together and had fun, which made it such a unique and special club to be a part, because half of us in there had no idea how to dance or how to do some sort of choreography, but we all knew how to have some fun together. And I think being able to perform in front of the school and represent a group that was so unique but so welcoming was really special.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, Mary, is that while you're doing all these fun things, you're competing in tournaments, you're going around the country, stuff like that, you're still a kid too, and you want to have fun. And when you're in high school, I mean, those are like the carefree times of your lives as well. So you want to be able to kind of leave your mark in your high school. And it seems like you did. I know you lettered and stuff, and National Honor Society, Spanish Honor Society. So, I mean, that's the other thing that impresses me a lot about you too, Mary, is with all that training you've done and all these tournaments and going all around the world, to be able to do what you did in the classroom is just remarkable. But talk about how difficult that was at times, because that's not easy, juggling martial arts, dance, and school at the same time.
You're right, Mike. It wasn't easy. It was hard. But again, I owe it all to martial arts for showing me how to have dedication, how to have discipline, but most importantly, time management. Sensei Sharky would not let me, not only would he not let me take class, but I wasn't allowed to go to tournaments if I had bad grades. And he always believed in me for doing well in school. I I am very grateful for how supportive of school he was for me and how much he pushed me. And again, I didn't do this alone. I got picked up by some of my teammates every single day from school. Both of my parents worked. They couldn't get me from school. I didn't have a car, but they picked me up from the school. I did my homework in the car. I did my homework right before classes started. Boom, classes start. I changed into my karate gi, teach for a little bit. When I had a minute and one of my teammates could teach, boom, I'm doing more work. I take my class and then I come home, do some more work, go to bed and do it again. It was hard and it was grueling, and I spent a lot of my high school lunches in the library getting work done. I spent a lot of my high school mornings having to meet with teachers and figuring things out. But it was because of the discipline and the support I got that I was able to do it.
Yeah, definitely. So, Mary, tell us, like, for somebody who doesn't really know what goes into a karate class,
Mhm.
for someone like yourself, say you're 7 or 8 years old and you're going to karate on a Tuesday night, what does the class consist of? Like, what will you learn that night, and what will you go over? And even, like, the conditioning aspects of it.
Yeah.
Give us a little idea.
You know, what always is so fun for me as an instructor is seeing brand new kids who have never even seen a karate show like Cobra Kai or something like that. Never even seen that. When they walk in and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I don't have to wear shoes." It's like such the simplest thing, but that's always stuck with me, that their eyes, like, open up and they're so excited that they don't have to wear shoes, and they get their own cubby and how special that is for them. But then immediately it's like, "Okay, I'm so excited." It's Sharky's Karate, we have a whole spring floor, so that's also makes kids excited because it's a little bit more bouncy. Um, it helps with the gymnastics training. And then immediately, once it's time to go, okay, your instructor tells you you got to be respectful. You cannot walk onto this floor until you bow for respect. And a black belt needs to let you in to bow. So from the get go, the kid knows, okay, I got to learn. It's go time. And always the structure of the classes has been very, very helpful. And now, what we did at Sharky's, you might not see at other martial arts schools. I'm not really that familiar with other martial arts school curriculums, but at Sharky's, every single time you start with a solid warm up that's the same, has a little bit of conditioning in there, but it's more to get your body moving and stretching. And it's consistent with all classes, all ranks, which is really good for new learners. And it's really good on your body that you have that repetition. And then always, we practice our basics. And basics is kind of what we talked about earlier. The things you learn as a white belt never go away. If you actually watch a black belt martial artist do their performances, it's all basic white belt moves, just performed in a little different way. So that is something that I think a lot of people don't realize that Sharky's is really shines on, is overwhelming majority of a karate class is practicing those basics that you learned as a white belt. Because when you're in your black belt leadership class, or even when you're in your I'm 7, 8 years old green belt doing this for fun, the same things you learned when you first started, you're still doing today. You might be doing a little bit more, but you're practicing those basics. And for the kids, usually at the end, we'll do like a karate game. For the adults, you'll probably do some conditioning. Give me 50 push-ups, 50 sit-ups, and now you can leave. So it kind of depends on the age, but all of the class, at least 75% of the class is all those basics.
Yeah, and I think it's so awesome that it gives kids a sense of belonging more than anything else, because there could be a kid who's having a tough time maybe fitting in or the
Mhm.
social aspect of things, and he or she really gets to like make friends there, not just get a black belt or whatever the case might be, but that person is building lifetime relationships, as I could see you've done, because I mean, you mentioned a lot of your mentors and friends as well. I really believe that that's probably one of the most rewarding things about
For
what
sure.
you've done is the friendships you've made over the years.
My Some of my best friends to this day are are those that I met in martial arts, and I would consider them family. And that is something just that I will forever be grateful for, that I have best friends and I have family through this sport, and especially through Sharky's karate.
Right. It's funny you mentioned Cobra Kai, and I do enjoy watching that. But I wanted to ask you, and I was going to
Yeah.
ask you that at some point during this, but someone who is, a skilled martial artist and has had so much success and has a great background, knows what she's doing. When you watch shows like that or even movies, do you ever find yourself critiquing how they're doing their karate and stuff? Because one thing I think, while Cobra Kai is a great show, I'm almost certain that your instructors always tell you never use this unless you absolutely have to, that this is something we're teaching you, but it's more about building character, self-respect, and defending yourself, but it's not something that they're encouraging you to use when you're having a fight or something like that.
Oh, absolutely. The number one thing that we learn in karate classes is you're not using this outside of the school unless you have to.
Right.
The I think part of the discipline and respect that we learn through martial arts keeps you out of trouble, keeps you out of situations that you need those fights. You learn self-defense to defend yourself if you're ever in a situation where you need to protect yourself. You don't learn this to go out and attack people on the streets.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, Mary, we talked about getting your first belt, which was pretty cool. Now, let me ask you this. Talk about the first tournament you competed in. And I wanted to ask you that too. To this day, for someone who's years, do you still get nervous to this day when you have a tournament?
I'm sorry, you cut out for a little bit. Can you repeat that, please?
Yeah. For someone who's been competing in tournaments forever, to this day, when you have a competition, do you still get nervous when you go out there and compete?
Oh, yeah. I get very, very, very nervous, and it it's always so funny because I always tell my students, "Your nerves is your adrenaline. It's good that you have nerves." And my mom always tells me that, and I believe it. I believe it in my core. Okay, my nerves is because I have adrenaline. I have a love for the sport. That's why I'm nervous. And something about competing on a stage or competing in the ring, doing the sport that you love, as nervous as I am before I go, the whole world tunes out. The whole world tunes out, and it's just me doing my fight, doing my performance. And it's something that it's like you crave that feeling, that because
Yeah.
there's everybody has felt some sort of competition before in their life, regardless if they've done a sports or just doing races at recess. But it's more than longing for competition. It's that I'm the only one in the room. I'm the one owning it. This is my time. Everybody watch me. And as nervous as I get before I step onto the ring, everybody shuts down and the whole world like goes black while you're in there. And that is such a cool feeling. But I get so nervous. So I'm not gonna put that aside. I get very nervous. But the moment that you're in the zone and ready to go, it's awesome.
And I think too, Mary, what people might not realize is it's a most of the time when you go out there, you're performing for maybe 90 seconds at the most. But
Hmm.
the work that goes into just getting those 90 seconds right is unbelievable, because I mean, you are preparing for this and you're putting so many hours in a week to do something that's going to be 90 seconds. And I think that that's what's really like neat about yourself and so many other martial artists, is that this 90 seconds is a lot of hard work that goes in, months out of the year. And
Hmm.
that really says a lot about you and everyone else who competes.
Well, thank you, but thank you. That you're totally right. You're on the ball with that one. But I think another reason to add to those nerves is you have only 90 seconds to be perfect. You've trained for hours. You've trained for 4 to 8 hours every single day leading up to this 90 seconds. You have 90 seconds to be perfect. You've spent your entire life training for this one moment. And that adds to the nerves, but that also adds to the excitement.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, you said that perfectly. It is, and sometimes it's not even 90 seconds, or sometimes it's over that, and it's you against the world. No one else is around you, except no one else is doing it with you to back you up except you.
Yeah. So Mary, let's talk about the the goal of getting your black belt and what you went through to do it. Talk to me a little bit just about that week, knowing that that moment was going to happen. I mean, were you thinking about it every day? I mean, you're in school a lot. Were you thinking about it during school because you knew it was coming? And that's something that I think if you're going to stick with martial arts and you strive to be a martial artist, that's the biggest goal that anyone can have is to get that black belt. So just talk about what that experience was like for you.
You know, you said, do you think about it every day that week? I thought about it every day for that year. Okay. So like I said, or like we've already talked about, I started my official first karate class at 4 years old. And I was able to test for my adult black belt at 17 years old. So that was always in the back of my mind for what is that, 11 years? I knew that was going to come. But once me and the five others that I tested with officially said, yes, we're testing, it every single day leading up to that for over a year, that was all we thought about. In that time, we still had tournaments, we still had performances, I still had school. I was able to actually go on some excursion trips for school through a place called the Shed Aquarium in that year. But every single day training was for that black belt. But at the point where we were at the point of training where we knew that our black belt was the most important thing in our life, but all of our life was shaped around that. We wouldn't have gotten any of our opportunities or any of our experiences without training through martial arts and without having that goal setting attitude and that determined attitude. So, I mean, we all talk about it, like gave us nightmares training for it because we were so nervous for it. But again, like we had talked about with competition, you're so nervous for it, but you have your entire support team with you, helping you along the way. And the night before that test, oh my God, we were like so nervous, freaking out. And then we showed up that day and we knew that it was go time.
Yeah. And just talk about that day. And, when you realized that you had received your black belt, I mean, what was that moment like for you and for your family?
So, part of the Sharky's Karate Black Belt ceremony, after the entire day of testing, almost all of the black belts that have earned their belt under Sensei Sharky, and again, it's less than 100. Under all those that are obviously able to attend that day from across the country are standing in front of you. So you have about 60 black belts standing in front of you, and it's just me and the five other guys. We finished our day of testing, but was very unique and very special, and something that it still like gives me chills when I think about it, is not only did I have all of them in front of me, not only did I have Sensei John Sharkey, who has been like a father figure for me my whole life, but I had both of my parents standing there in front of me, which is one of the most honorable things that I have had through this sport. Not only does my entire family do it, but both of my parents were part of my test. They weren't just there cheering me on, they were there testing me and having me earn that belt. And I remember the moment that we got to bow, and I had like tears of joy. My face was red, my eyes filled with tears, because it was my parents that got to give me my belt, which was something really, really impactful for me.
Yeah, and I can only imagine what that was like for you. But the other thing is too is that really your parents had to look back and say, "Wow, if we never took that martial arts class,
Mhm.
you wonder what would have happened." Because I mean, never could anybody have envisioned that, especially them, that their daughter would go on to the heights she did, like
Wow.
you did yourself, because I mean, they were just doing it obviously to do something, you know, a hobby and stuff like
Yeah.
that, not knowing. And then look what happens. Their daughter is like one of the best martial artists in the world. So I mean, for them, it had to come full circle.
Well, thank you. I truly believe that everything happens for a reason, and I'm so blessed that I have been able to have this in my life. But I count my blessings, and I am very very thankful. But everything happens for a reason.
Right. So, Mary, you know, watching some of your different performances, and again, I will say this, I sound like a broken record, but I'm not an expert. But one thing watching these performances that I see from you is each time you go out there, you reinvent yourself with something new, something different, and it just adds to the talent that you have. And that's really what people need to understand is it's a reason it's called martial arts, because you are creating art. That's what you're doing, and you're creating it on a great stage with karate and things like that. And it's really something you're like in a lot of ways making beautiful music when you go out there.
That thank you so much. That was a really really nice compliment. I There's two things that came to mind when you said that. Besides the fact of how much time Sensei Sharky put into me and gave to me to help me train. Micah Carnes is who I owe all of my theatrics and confidence and style and performance to. He has been like a big brother to me and was my main, you could say, choreographer for a lot of my creative things. And then another person, Sensei Suzanne Winkett, she's a traditional martial artist. One thing she told me before one of my tournaments, and it stuck with me forever since, is tell a story. Tell me your story. So from that moment on, the moment I got onto the mat, I was telling everyone my story. And the fact that you were able to recognize that and tell me that now is really special. And that's something that Suzanne Winkett told me that I will stick with me and I'll always tell my students as well.
Yeah, and I mean, it really is fun to watch you go out there, Mary, because the thing of it is too is like I can just tell that you love doing it. And that's the great thing about it, because it is a demanding sport sometimes, as you touched upon. There's a lot of commitment, there's a lot of dedication that goes into it. But I really feel that no one should do it unless they're enjoying it. If you're doing it for, you know, whatever reason and it's not fun, then it's not worth doing it. So the fact that you're having fun with it all the time is really, I think, what's so special about what you do.
I totally agree. You shouldn't be, if you're going to put all this time into it, you need to love it. You need to love it. And so as a especially teenager growing up in this competitive environment, there were some times where I thought maybe I don't love it. But then you always find something new to love. As I was starting to get older, I started teaching martial arts a lot more, and that reinvented my love for it. I got to teach the Little Sharks program that I used to be a student in. I got to develop a cardio kickboxing class at Sharky's Karate. I got to train new black belts that are about to test. Being able to fall back in love with it, finding new things is what really keeps you going.
Right, exactly. So, Mary, I wanted to ask you this because I'm sure I know the answer, but I still want to ask it. I'll
Mhm.
see kids who love basketball, and you'll just see them kind of shoot the ball like air shot. You know, they don't have a ball in their hand, but they're practicing going like this. My sister used to be a cheerleader, and she'd always do cheers in the mirror. Do you find yourself sometimes, even to this day, still doing like some of your moves, like when you're just like in the house and stuff like that? Because I mean, I think like you're just so used to doing it all the time that it just becomes part of your everyday routine.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Sometimes I'll be moving around. I'm like, wait, oh my gosh, what was I just doing? Or a lot of times when it was big tournament season, I would catch myself in the shower practicing. I was doing moves in the shower, and I'm like, well, at least I'm spending my time practicing for this. It's like your body knows.
Yeah, exactly. So, Mary, one of the things that I have to believe this has to rank probably in your top five most rewarding things you've done in your life is you've got to perform at military bases
Okay.
throughout the world. So, talk about that experience because you've performed at a lot of naval bases, correct?
Yes, sir. So, being part of Team Sideswipe, which is a martial arts performance group that was again founded at Sharky's Karate, we have had the opportunity to travel all around the world. Specifically, I have gone to 3 naval bases. I've gone to the Great Lakes Naval Base in Chicago. I have gone to Guantanamo Bay in Cuba, and I've gone to Yokosuka Naval Base in Japan. And the honor it is to be asked to travel overseas to perform for those that are risking their lives every day for our country is surreal, and it is so special, and it is so humbling being able to see parts of the world that most people don't, or just seeing the joy that these military people and their families see just by me doing what I love is something so special that I'm forever grateful for.
Yeah, and I can't even imagine that. Like, I could think what it's like, but I mean, until you experience that, and I mean, that's got to be something too. I would think that gets you emotional as well, being there, and
Oh,
just because you know what you're doing too, Mary, and I'm sure you realize it is you're kind of giving them an escape for a while, something they could enjoy, and they're getting to just have some downtime watching this. So you're really entertaining them, and again, creating that beautiful art that you do. And I just think that's really, I really find that astounding of what you do with that.
thank you. And it really is an honor, and it's something that I hold really close to my heart, and that I'm so proud of Sideswipe to be able to go and do these performances.
Right. So, Mary, talk to me a little bit. You mentioned it about how important your team is to you and things like that. Just talk to me about some of the team members who've really like impacted you throughout your life.
Well, I've mentioned a few. Micah Carnes he really changed my life when I met him when I was 8 years old, and he took me under his wing and helped me become the martial artist I am today. Same thing with Justin Chang. Justin is like another brother to me. He's loved me. He's picked me up from school all every day when I was a kid. I get to see him still every once in a while when I go out and visit a lot of them in Los Angeles. Um, Enzo Bilog, Stephen Bratton, Andrew Bratton, and Brian Janza. I got to test. We all tested together for our adult black belt, and that is a bond that we will forever have. I have competitors that I can list on and on and on. Noelle Jellison, Kiki Kubo, Gabrielle Rudolph. I have there's just like so many people in Los Angeles. And but especially I would say my sister. My sister, Katie, she's about 4 years younger than me. Um, Being able to train and watch her grow and watch her and her friends go through the tournament. I mean, I feel like I have so many people, and I'm gonna forget. There is Colin O'Brien, Katie O'Brien, Jake Presley, Avery Presley, Joe Troy, Asalif. There's like 1,000 trillion people that I feel like I can keep saying. Aiden Kennedy. It's like I feel like I'm gonna forget someone and not say something, but everyone is impactful in their own way.
Yeah, and I just really watching the different performers. The one thing too, Mary, that I think is remarkable about all of you is, I mean, the athleticism you have to be able to do the things you do. Because, I mean, again, you guys make it look so effortlessly out there. And I know it's not, I know it's hard, but you make it look so perfect out there. And that's really a testament to each one of you and the commitment that you put into this. And I just think that this is the one sport that people don't realize just how hard it is. It's very hard. It's not an easy sport, and there's going to be some rough patches along the way. But you and your fellow competitors and teammates and senseis and instructors, you all have like this great building block that you do together that makes it work.
You're absolutely right, and thank you for that recognition. It and some those rough patches are sometimes the reason that we become successful. There's a lot that you have to go through the athletic world, but also in your head and in your body and just in your personal life. And some of the roughest patches you can go through make you grow in life too.
Right. You know, Mary, you've mentioned in the past that your favorite division was always the traditional forms. You love them all, but the traditional forms are your favorite. And I
Yes.
have to agree with you that it's my favorite to watch because really, like, you just see, like, again, I sound like a broken record, but the work that goes into it. And I mean, again, when I see you do it, I always feel like you're reinventing yourself, you're doing something new, and really, like, you're so innovative with the stuff you do. And it's just so much fun to watch. But just talk about the traditional forms and how invaluable they've been to you in your career.
The reason traditional forms is my favorite division is because every martial arts is built off of your traditional style. Traditional empty hand is the first thing that you learn as a white belt, is when you first go in there. That just means the most basic, no weapons in your hand style. And if you do the creative martial arts with the flipping and the speed and the spins, or if you do weapons, all of that stuff can be translated back to your original roots, where that's your traditional forms. And that's why it's my favorite, because I wouldn't have anything else unless I had traditional forms.
Right. And, speaking of forms and styles, you have won all four styles. I mean, you've won the traditionals, the CMX forms, the weapons. I mean, that is just impressive because I'm sure when you set out to do what you were doing, you would have been fine with winning one of them. That would be a great accomplishment. But to win all of them, I mean, you have to really be proud of what you've accomplished, Mary, because you know more than anybody how hard it is to do that.
You're right. You're right. And that is another beauty of Sharky's karate. A lot of martial arts athletes tend to specialize in just their one niche, what they feel. And like I said, traditional forms was my favorite. And I always seemed to perform better in my head, at least perform better with the empty hand, regardless if that was CMX or if that was traditional. Um, but part of Sharky's karate is we train everything. We don't just train traditional forms. We don't just train CMX forms. Actually, in order to do XMA and CMX performances, we have to do our traditional classes, which is also very unique with Sharky's karate. So I competed in all of the divisions because that's what we did. That's what we trained for. So it wasn't unique to me, but comparatively, it is unique of Sharky's karate to other martial arts schools.
Right. So, stepping away from martial arts for a second,
Mhm.
you mentioned that your love for science is something you've loved for a long time now.
Yeah.
And you mentioned those trips you went on, the research trip, and it really kind of changed your whole outlook on science when you did that research trip. So, talk about what that experience was like for you.
So I have been lucky enough to go on a few research trips through the Shedd Aquarium of Chicago. And both of them were high school programs of aspiring scientists, aspiring marine biologists. And um, being able to take a complete step away from martial arts, even though it was martial arts that got me into the mindset to pursue it, taking a step away from martial arts to experience nature and to immerse myself into something that I truly loved was life changing. And it made me want to pursue marine biology. It made me want to go to the University of Tampa so I can do scientific research. And again, it does relate back to martial arts. I had a little bit of a struggle when I graduated high school because most of my martial arts teammates moved to Los Angeles to do the stunt world. And I felt torn. I felt like maybe I should be doing that too. I'm a martial artist, but it was Sensei Sharky who had sit down conversation with me and was like, I excel in education. I am good at school. I have a passion for science. I should pursue that. Martial arts isn't going away, but this is my opportunity to be a scientist and to be able to learn and experience nature and be able to pass that scientific knowledge down.
Yeah. And the thing is, to sacrifice uh, missing some of the martial arts tournaments to go do that trip. So, I mean, you realize too, Mary, and it's like you said, martial arts doesn't go away, but you do realize that in your everyday life, there has to be something else that you have a passion for. And I just think, like, the fact that this, your love for science and things like that. One thing about you is it just seems like you're a very motivated person every day. It doesn't matter what it is, you're going to find something every day in your life to kind of make the most of that day.
Thank you. And that is something, a value that my family has taught me. My grandma, who is one of my favorite people in the entire world, she had a very hard life, and she went through struggles. But every day, I would be able to learn from my grandma that she found something to make her happy. She found some way to spread joy, and that is how I try and live my life. I mean, it's hard. Life gets really hard sometimes. Everybody has very stressful moments, and some people have it even worse than others. But there's something to live for, and there's something to work for every day, and that is a value that I always like to think about my grandma and try and live my life like how she did.
Right. Mary, it's hard to believe it's been like 5.5 years, but every athlete along the way gets that year that's really their big year. And for you, it was in 2018. And I mean, what a year you had. I mean, you know, you competed at nationals, you won the Capital Classics, and of course you took home the Warrior Cup, which I know is very special to you. And if I'm not mistaken, you recently were over there and you were one of the judges. So I mean, just talk about 2018, and I think even the Dixieland Nationals, you were the winner. So I mean, what a year you had in 2018.
So I remember 2018. That was my last year. I believe so. Yeah, that was I was like trying to do the math really quick. That was my last year as a junior in the NASCA circuit, which was that was my last year being under 18. I did turn 18 in 2018, but not until the end. So it kind of messed with the dates and the birthdays and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, as my last year of 2018, and that's when me and Noelle Jellison, we've always been close since we were like 10, but that's when we got very, very, very close because she was winning or I was winning, or she was winning or I was winning. And
Right.
people probably think that that isn't good for friends, but that made our friendship stronger. But that year in particular is when NASCA split boys competing against girls. And for a very, very long time, for like over a decade, no judges ever picked the girl to win, ever, 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 ever. And that wasn't it wasn't conscious. It wasn't a conscious decision, but looking at the data and looking at how the history went, that really changed the game. And being able to have a voice in some of that decision, and being able to go at it as hard as we possibly could with one of my best friends was why that year was so important to me.
Right. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mary, but I think the last time you competed in the youth division, it was the Pan Ams in Miami, and that's a pretty big deal. So just talk about that final one. And I bet there was a part of you, Mary, that when you were done with it, you were like, "Wow, I'm done with the junior division or the youth division. Now I'm going to go to the adults." So I bet like there had to be that one moment where you were like, "This is it."
It's kind of an interesting mindset because I didn't have like a, oh wow, this is it. I can't believe I'm ending this chapter. It was, oh my God, I have a whole new chapter coming up
Yeah.
mindset. I never really had a, I can't believe I'm done with this. It was way more, I have all this coming up to work for and to look forward to.
Right. And Mary, let me ask you, what was the difference from going to the youth division to the adult division, like as far as training went? Never mind competing, but just as far as training went.
Well, as a child and as a teenager in the NASCA circuit, you're always watching the adults. They're always the big ones on stage. They're always the one having the most intense forms, having the strongest competition. And the adults isn't just like a 2-year age group. It's anybody over 18. So once you're in that adult division, obviously you're not going to go as an adult and compete in the children in the youth division, but once you're there forever, and your competitors are there forever. They're never changing. But it's the build up. It's at my entire life I've watched these women compete, and now I'm competing against them. And
Yeah.
it's the other idea that now I am a woman that these girls look up to. And that was kind of the most impactful thought that I had, and it really did change a lot of my training and change a lot of my mindset that, wow, I've looked up to so many people and now they're looking up to me.
Right. And Mary, I'm sure you're not the only one. I would have to obviously check on that, but the first time you competed in the adult grands, you won. I mean, that to me is just awesome. And I mean, that had to be, I know there's so many moments and maybe some of them become muddled at times, but that had to probably be your greatest moment because
Mhm.
you knew what you did at the youth division. You knew how awesome you did there. But now you're going to this whole different level. This is the adult division. This is the only one you could go to. You can't go any further than that. And to win on your first tournament, had to be just so awesome for you.
It was one of the most special moments of my life, and it was special for so many reasons. I never thought that I was going to win. I never had that mindset at all. Not I'm not even saying I never thought I was going to win that tournament. I just never thought I was going to win, period.
Right.
So to prove that against myself, to know that my work's paid off, and to know that I got to do it in front of my teammates, in front of my family, in front of my students was why it was so special to me.
Yeah. And I mean, Mary, you talk so much about what Sensei Sharky has meant to you. And I mean, I know just like that had to be a special moment because you know how proud he is of you and he's been rooting for you. Since the time you were a baby. I mean, he basically knew you from that time. You mentioned he's a father figure. And obviously, your parents and your sister being there, that was special. But having him there for that had to be just, so gratifying.
It was really special, and I will cherish that feeling forever.
Right. So, Mary, the other thing you've been doing, obviously, now is at one time, Sensei Sharky was a student like yourself. He competed like you did. Then he became a sensei. And now you're getting to do that. And you're teaching classes and you talked about the kids that you get to teach. And I have to ask you, as much as you love competing, what is most special to you, the competing or teaching the students? Because I'm sure when you get to be a mentor every day to some
Mhm.
child and they look up to you, that has to just make you so proud as a human being.
Teaching is definitely the best thing of martial arts, in my opinion. Being able to see the kids grow and see them be proud of themselves and see their gears turning, but to be able to pass the same knowledge that was given to me onto a new generation, and then how they manipulate that knowledge and they perform it, that is what is the best part of martial arts.
Right. And let me ask you, how special is it for you when you see one of your students achieve like a black belt or even just like get to a higher belt that they're trying to get to? I mean, being there with them that day, seeing them, you know, demonstrate for the audience that's there, and then knowing that you saw all the hard work and preparation they put in, like you did as a kid. What is that feeling like for you?
I can tell you every time that's happened, I've cried. Every time I get all the emotions. I'm like, yes, they did it. I'm so proud of them. I get more excited for them winning or for them getting their achievement than I ever did for myself. And it that just shows that legacy, that the relationship of student to teacher is so unique and so special.
Right. Mary, one of the things that I know was like a lifelong goal of yours,
Mhm.
and Team AK is very special to you. It's a very enduring to your heart. You got to be one of the co-captains of
Mhm.
Team AK. So just talk about what that meant to you, because I know that was something you were really striving for throughout your martial arts career.
Absolutely. I mean, Team AKA, and I've always said it, and I always will, was my dream team. It is my dream team. When I was little and I was looking at these kids coming for karate camp, I wanted to be like them. I wanted to be on Team AKA. And just as shocked and honored as I was when I was first put on the team, I was even more honored to be named as captain. And what has been really amazing being in the captain position is I it's not just me, of course. There's many captains. I'm just a co-captain, and how all of us have different strengths and all of us bring different talents to the table, and how I've seen my strengths and talents change through the years as well. And it has been an honor to be able to give back and to support and again just be part of that AKA Sharky legacy.
Right. And Mary, I talked about a little bit earlier that you got to be a judge at the Warrior Cup, and you got to kind of be involved with the events. And a lot of things you do for the Sharkey School now is you set up a lot of the events that are held there. I mean, you play a big part in that. And you've done seminars too, if I'm not mistaken. You kind of go over like techniques of martial arts and stuff like that. So what's really remarkable again about you is you give back. You know how important it was to you, and you know what martial arts did for you, what the Sharkey School did for you, and you're giving back every day to the school and to martial arts in general. And I think that's really something that stands out about you. Just talk about that a little bit.
Well, that's what it's all about. It's all about giving back. I've gotten all this knowledge and all these blessings from everyone else. It I owe it to everyone to give it back. And I don't everybody has their own strengths, and I think the best way that I've given back to the art is through teaching it and through spreading that type of knowledge. And everybody has their own gifts that they bring to the table, and it's all about giving back.
Yeah. Mary, let me ask you, again, I'm sure there had to be some martial artists that you've never met that you've kind of like, I don't want to say idolized, but really like enjoyed watching. Is there any particular martial artist that you haven't met yet that you would love to meet?
Well, that's what's so unique about the NASCA circuit. You have the best of the best, the most elite competing that you're watching your whole life, and now all of a sudden you're competing against them. And I mean, there are so many athletes that I've always looked up to and idolized. Um, Casey Nash, she's a extremely talented traditional martial artist who I've never met her before, but I've always loved and enjoyed watching her compete. And something that a moment that is very special to me is when I was at a tournament when I was little. My grandma used to come to tournaments with me. Um, I was sitting. The performance was amazing. Kalman Shoka, he did his sword form, and that was incredible. And it was a great form to see. But seeing how much my grandmother, who has never done karate, who's gone to very few tournaments, was blown away by that was something that one day maybe I would be able to share with him how special that moment was for me and her.
Right. And I'm glad you touched on that, Mary, because what I think you do too is you give people who really weren't necessarily martial arts fans or didn't understand it enough, they get a new appreciation. I know for myself, just watching you and the different competitors, I really do have a appreciation for what all of you do, because I look at what you do and I say to myself, these are unbelievable athletes and performers, because on my best day, I couldn't even get my feet off the ground. So it really is like just unbelievable and amazing the what you do day in and day out.
Well, thank you so much. It takes a lot of work and a lot of dedication, but again, you can't do it alone. It's everyone's support and everyone's help and guidance that gets you there. Trust me, I I'm not at a point where if I just wanted to throw a cartwheel and some kicks right now, I couldn't do it. I'd have to stretch a little bit. I have to work my way back into it. But as the competitive athlete, that's your day in and day out. It might seem natural, and it is natural, but it takes a lot of work to get there.
Mary, I don't know if this is something that has ever entered your mind yet. I'm sure it has at some point. I'd really love to see you compete at the Olympics. I think that would be like just a dream come true for you. And that is really something that I hope happens for you someday, because I really do believe you deserve that opportunity. And whether you win or not, it doesn't really matter. Just getting there is something that I really think you deserve. And I hope that happens for you. Is that something you've thought about?
You know what? Thank you so much for saying that. That was very, very nice. It's totally something I've thought about. karate and martial arts is one of the sports in the Olympics that isn't always offered as one of the sports. So that
Yeah.
kind of alters your view as the athlete, a viewpoint of, will I even get there? Will I be able to do this? But of course, that's the dream of any competitive athlete. The Olympics is the dream. Now, if it was ever an actual opportunity to get, absolutely, that's what I would want. But most of the time, it's not a sport in the Olympics, so it's kind of hard to have that vision or that goal because you don't really know if that's even like actually possible. But if it is, of course, that's the goal.
And it's really surprising to me, Mary, because just seeing what these athletes do year in and year out, how that's not a sport all the time at the Olympics, that's really not fair to the great martial artists who put the work in and year out, because they deserve to have that opportunity. And I really hope that the Olympics takes a big look at that and understands that they need to kind of make sure that's always offered, whether it's the summer games or the winter games, that's offered when it comes around.
Well, that's the goal, to just spread the knowledge and spread the importance of the sport. So it's not just those that are in the martial arts community that know about it, but everyone in the world can watch it and appreciate it.
Right. And Mary, I know we talked about how great you've done in the classroom, and now you talk about giving back. You're giving back in the classroom because, if I'm not mistaken, you're a high school teacher. Am I right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Just talk about like what that's meant to you to actually be a school teacher, because again, you're impacting kids every day of their lives. I mean, you're teaching them, you're I'm sure for some of your students you're a mentor to them, and that's got to just be another proud moment that you're doing in your life.
Well, I sound like a broken record. I relate it all back to martial arts. I've had the privilege to be able to teach at Sharky's Karate my whole life, and I still have Sensei Sharky's support today. We get to talk all the time, although I don't see him every day. We get to talk and share fun stories. But I also met got this job opportunity through a martial arts tournament. One of the tournament promoters and I were talking when I was still in college, and how I wanted to combine both of my passions. I wanted to combine science and I wanted to combine teaching. And he was actually the one that helped me get this job. And now we work together at the school. To be able for me to combine both of my science and teaching passion is really what it's all about. It's about giving back. Although this is not teaching martial arts, I always say it's similar to it. The structure of the class, the way you handle the respect and discipline, the fun you get to have with your students, that's what it's about.
Right. So Mary, before we go, what is
Mhm.
the one thing or the best advice you could give to the Mary Amantos out there in the world that are trying to do what you've been doing your whole life, that whether they want to be a great volleyball player or a martial artist, or they want to, you know, do basketball, whatever the case might be a school teacher, be a lawyer, whatever the case, what's the best advice you would give them?
Live your life to the fullest. Live your life to the fullest. Every day is a gift. You don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. So bring it your all, give it your all, and have fun every day.
Well, Mary, I mean, that was an awesome answer. And, I want to thank you for giving me a few minutes today. It was a real honor for me. I think what you're doing in your life is just remarkable. And you're the type of person that people strive to be like, because, I mean, you understand the importance of giving back, being impactful, being inspiring. And I really do applaud what you're doing in your life. And thank you for giving me a few minutes today.
Mike, thank you so much for reaching out and having me on your show. I'm honored to be here, and I'm really, really excited we got to do this. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. Well, folks, there you had it. This last hour, you got to know Miriam Anto. And if you didn't know who she was, you got to see someone who's just an unbelievable human being. She's a martial artist with tremendous ability and skills, and she's won a number of tournaments. But the thing that stands out the most to me about Mary, more than anything else, is her outlook on life. Every day she brings positivity with her, and she encourages everyone to live their dreams, as you just heard her say, to the fullest. I talked earlier in the show about fortitude, because that really is the type of word you need in life. Well, you could dust off that word for Mary Amanto. For Hometown Heroes, I'm Mike Kenichi saying good night, everyone.